worry. And if at any time during my talking anybody needs to get up or take a call or leave the room, don't feel that that's disturbing. No problem, just get up. And if you have a question, towards the end, I really would love to have an opportunity to have a question and answer, so that things that you may have dealt with or have questions of, you can pose those questions. And we're sitting in a room full of people that are interested in high jump, that have a lot of collective experience. So we may draw from some of your wealth of knowledge as we discuss this beautiful event called the high jump. Welcome, you guys. Find a seat. Just getting started. So today we're going to take time to be able to tell you a little bit about my experience. One thing, I'm going to kind of walk through a little bit of my personal philosophy and just where we are in sport and this valuable tool that you have of being able to coach kids in high school. Some of you may even interface with younger than that, junior high. Sometimes we have that come to our school or will brush through with some of the younger kids and influence them towards this track and field. So we'll go there a little bit, and then what I want to do is spend some time on how I will train some of the things that I do with kids to warm up, to strengthen flexibility, some of the high points of that. I also am going to talk a lot about this. And before I begin much further, let me see a hand for people who this is their first experience, first year coaching high jump. If you don't mind, I'd love to see those who are here that haven't really done it, but are going to dive in and take that. Thank you. If you have about 5 years, at least 5 years of experience coaching high jump, can I see your hand as well? And if you have 10 years of experience coaching high jump, not just track, but high jump, I'd like to see your hand. All right, if you have at least 15 years of experience coaching high jump, raise those hands. Awesome. How about 20-year high jump people? How about 25-year high jump people? The veterans. Anybody at 30 years coaching high jump? Sweet. How about 35 years? Oh, wow, you guys. Anybody 40 years? 40? 40? That's phenomenal. Imagine if we were to pool all of these years, make that sum, how we're almost into a couple of centuries worth of collective experience at the event called high jump. That's dynamic, and we can learn a lot from each other. I'm going to try to cruise through. If at any time you really have a burning question, it doesn't bother me at all, please raise your hand to clarify or to insert something. I'm fine with that. Coming from California here to Minnesota, I came as I was introduced on scholarship, so I left my hometown of Eureka. Anybody been to Eureka?
Hot Springs?
Nice. Eureka, California is a little town on the northern coast, the home of the loggers. We are the Eureka High loggers. And I got a scholarship to play basketball for the University of Minnesota. The coach back in the 80s had run a camp at Little Humboldt State University, and I went to that basketball camp a couple years, and she recruited me from there and said, "You're coming to a land far away." Well, since I had started high jumping there in junior high, I loved that sport, and I excelled and went to state in California, and it's a big, long state, so they kind of chop it up into two halves. And I did well in the northern half of the state of California. So when I came out here, I started talking to Gary Wilson at Bierman, and I'm like, "Is there any way that I can high jump?" He's like, "Yeah, come on." So my freshman year was the only year that I did that, because it's pretty tough to do Division I, 2 sports. And had I been been allowed or gotten a full scholarship to just run track, I would have done that, but I couldn't. So after setting that record, it lasted as long as since been broken, but I decided to stay with the full ride, being an out-of-state kid. So meeting my husband, and 4 kids later, he's from a little town on the North Shore called Grand Marais. I'm still here and have made Minnesota my home. This event, I've been coaching at our kids' high school, St. Croix Lutheran, for 11 years. Hadn't really jumped at all since ending in college, but this event in my mind is probably the most magical, and I am biased, forgive me for my bias, but I think it's the most magical event in the sport of track and field, because here's what you're combining. Not just running straight ahead, which is lovely, but it is incorporating speed and the magic of physics of corkscrewing a body on takeoff, getting airborne, turning in the air 180 degrees to vulnerably lay out and fly through the air, landing blindly in a pit that you can't see when you're in the air, and clearing a bar with your entire body backwards. There is very few things in life that in my experience incorporates that much dynamicness than that. So when I bring an athlete in and they're remotely interested in high jump, oh, they hear from Cindy what they're about to do and how awesome high jump is. And I encourage you, as you talk to your athletes, to share the magic of this. And I think that each and every event that a student decides to do, because how many of you here are multiple event coaches? You coach more than just exactly. You have a spectrum of game knowledge that you get to impart to your students. But if there is hesitancy and if there is fear, you can conquer that and bring kids through and out of that. So that we're in a tricky position, and let me talk right now about kind of what I'm seeing on the landscape of student athletes that come. It is a time that is like no other. We have an extreme amount of distraction in our land. I'm talking to me too. These things in our back pocket are tools, but they're also, they can be problematic. Young people who don't have depth of living without them don't have an experience to know what it was like before, like growing up without these. Do you understand what I mean? So this kind of post-industrial, let me just talk out loud for a moment about just my thoughts about this. We have, as coaches, an incredible opportunity to get kids when they don't have this in front of them and in their hand. There's very few moments in their life where that is happening. But when they're at practice at a sport, that's that time. So in terms of being an influencer, I want to impart to you the importance that you have in the lives of young student athletes. And it is incredible that you're choosing to use your time to influence kids in a really healthy way. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for signing up for not only this clinic, but thank you for signing up to be a coach. Because the power that you have to move a student through into something that's positive is really an incredible thing. So, good job to you guys for choosing to do that. I'm about to start my 12th year coaching at St. Croix, and we have a spectrum of kids that they're not all top-notch athletes, and I love that. I could care less how far a kid could jump or how fast a kid can run. If they have a desire to learn, that is money. That is where, even if they don't have a desire to learn and they don't know yet that they want to, you can infuse that in them by your own excitement. And it's hard to muster at times because when we as coaches live a busy life, I'm a mom of 4, self-employed in film production, got a rental property, I swing a hammer, I try to coach high jump. We are busy people in lives, right? To get to practice when we are personally exhausted, it is what's the proper word? Imperative that we try to lay whatever is heavy or happening outside the track. And we bring in a fresh spirit every time we come because we don't know what these kids are bringing with them when they come to us. So investing in kids' lives will have great gains long down the road for them. So I commend you for that. Let's dive into this. The approach of high jump. After a student is warmed up, their body is moving. You never want to, of course, you all know this. We warm up, get all the athletes going at once. Because I'm not running an entire program, the kids come to me having been warmed up. So then I'll start stretching program and go through some of the specifics, which I'm going to talk about. This event is the approach. Do you guys all know? I'm sure you all do. For the few who are first timers, I'm going to break this down very specifically so that we can walk through. Take notes on this if you have never ever coached high jump. For those of you who already know this, forgive me if it is redundant, but sometimes it is helpful. There may be some nuggets that you get out of this. The approach and takeoff for high jump is 90% of the work. The approach is the most important thing. Sometimes we think that a lot of maneuvers must be done in air, but once you leave the ground here, and remember this, once you leave the ground of this approach of high jump and your foot is off the ground, there's nothing more you can do to change the trajectory of your in-air work. Nothing more. You may do some movement changes. There may be some things that you do with your positioning of your limbs and the positioning of their head and their trunk. But once this foot is off the ground, it's all done. That's why I want to tell you that getting the approach and doing the approach work, that's where you'll have the greatest success for your athlete to successfully high jump. Well, how do we get a kid to high jump? Kid comes and let's talk about that student. The kid that has never jumped in their life, but they're enthusiastic and they'd like to try. All of the kids that come to me, I teach them the same thing, whether they're incredible and they're 6'5" jumper. I had a kid go to state, he took second this year in Minnesota. He is a natural jumper with natural form in his hips. Natural, I mean, it's just awesome, it's beautiful. A properly done form in high jump is just, it's like ballet. I mean, it's not ballet, it's really beautiful. And then some are like a Mack truck that just smashes the bar. I've got a kid named I'll use Haley as her name. And this girl's been jumping with me for 3 years. And she is so enthusiastic, and she is a terrible high jumper. But that's okay, because guess what she calls herself? A high jumper. And I'm like, yes, Haley, you are a high jump, even though she blows through that bar, she doesn't lift her hips, and she can't kick her feet, and she literally drags the bar off every time. But guess what? She has purpose in my program because she feels a sense of belonging. So if she is cast out in just high jump, where do the Haleys in our world fit if they can't be part of something that they desperately desire? And it doesn't bother her. She's, I'm just going to try again. And Haley backs up, and she tries again, and she blows through the bar. And we'll put it really low, or I'll use a stretchy, or I'll just use the, what's the word? What did you call it? The bungee. Yeah, the bungee. We'll put the bungee up for Haley. Good job, Haley. Everybody on our team knows that Haley is a rotten jumper. Everybody knows. But she has a place of belonging at the high jump, and she comes faithfully every day. And she does her flexibility like everybody else, and she gets on the ground, and she does her bridge pose, and she's doing her arches, and she's showing up and trying. So, as a coach, I know the importance of valuing her as much as Super King, awesome jumper, because we all are a family. And that's a brilliant thing to infuse into your program. Take that back to your, just because someone scores no points, or few, if any, it doesn't mean they are less valuable as a person. So I know that points are important. I know that they're important, but more important in our society right now is getting people on board to do a clean, healthy act, to become a citizen in this world. It's not just about points. I know that you know that, but it bears repeating. Let's get back to the importance of this. So, nuts and bolts of a high jump. The amount of steps that a kid or a human or an adult takes to approach this bar, there is flexibility there, but it is common knowledge that an 8 to 12 foot approach, step approach, is what is really nice. I like 10 steps as the sweet spot. 10 steps. That's all they got to worry about. Let's use 10 as what we're going to break this down with for those that are getting their reminding what is important and being reminded how to build a student into a high jumper. It can be this side or it can be this side. If you're starting on the left side, as we face the pit, your takeoff leg, right? The last one that's going to hit the ground before they're flying is the right foot. I'm going to call that your inside foot, okay? I call this the outside and this the inside, okay? If you're taking off on this side, I didn't do two, I just showed one because I am a right foot takeoff, that's my preferred side, but many kids will start on this side. If you are a right side starter, your left foot will be your takeoff, your plant leg. It's going to be the last one. A common thing for kids to do is to not make the letter J. A lot of kids want to make an L. You're going to see this. Stop that immediately. Like, I'll stop everything. If people keep doing that, we'll just stop and say, hey, this is the letter J. Let's go back to doing this. Painter's tape, athletic tape, or masking tape are a nice way to put down on the track in the very opening time, or even in the gym, because we're in Minnesota and we can't jump outside for the first however many weeks. Put that down and let them begin to see that this is a straight and that it ends in the curve. Why is this curve so fantastically important? There's something called centrifugal or centripetal force. Those are two different things, but it's similar in theory. When you run a straight line, your energy is forward, okay? When you are beginning to curve, that force of that curve is building. So the body is beginning to wind that spring and store energy on this curve. 5 steps of straight begins the 5-step secondary of the curve. Another fantastic thing that I do with the kids are curve drills, so running around curves. It gets them to begin to think about when you're running a curve, your body will naturally bend into the center of that circle. So set them on a circle. It's not horribly important how wide that diameter is, but a roughly 15 to 20 foot. And you can play with that. Have them feel in their body what happens when they begin to run this circle. Have them feel what happens on the soles of their feet. Where do you feel pressure? On the inside, pointing towards the inside when they're running, whether it's a right side or left, they're going to feel that pressure on the inside of the sole of their feet. So have them begin to feel what that is like. Also tell them, once they begin this curve, their body needs to be straight. Let's say you're a javelin holder. And we've done this with like a tennis ball on the end of a stick to show, or not a tennis ball, but to show that the lean on the inside of this curve, I know, I see nodding heads, you know exactly what I mean. You need to accommodate that curve so that pressure stays in line with your body. At the point of takeoff, if you are standing straight at the point of takeoff, what is that going to do? Drag you right into the bar. So on the approach and in this curve, when you're coming into it and gathering on the last 2 steps, you want to be pointing your body away from that pit. Really, really critical. Like I said, an upright stand is going to have a person travel right into the bar. So this arc, once you're in air, the arc coils the spring. When you're in the air, it continues the rotation so that athletes don't have to whip their body or turn or throw their head in. We don't want to do that. That will kill the stored energy of the spring. Does any of what I'm saying make sense? And I just begin to tell some kids will get it naturally and some kids won't. And also, you have to kind of pick and choose what you lay on these kids. Too much information can get too much in your head, and you've seen kids that overthink. So then you strip it down, you just strip over speaking and keep it basic. Or make it a J. We're going, just extrapolate what as we talk, what are the key nuggets that you want to impart to this athlete once they are airborne that they're going to need to do. Let's get someone connected here. Matt, you need him?
No, I'm just saying, come on in.
Oh, very good. Welcome. All right. These two are money. The penultimate step and the ultimate step. Penultimate step, second to the last, ultimate step, the last. When we're coming in, your body is straight, you're pushing back against through your feet into that track surface. Hopefully everyone is wearing spikes. If they are not, they're just going to have a gentler approach, a gentler curve, and a gentler takeoff. If kids aren't in spikes and they really hit that curve hard, that could be trouble. They can blow out. Can I insert a caution because it's in my head right now? This is a warning bell that I want all of you to hear. I'll forget it if I don't say it. At the end of a season, when spikes have been grinding at a takeoff spot on little rubberized material that are bonded, at the end of the year, or even any time during the season, a lot of hits of spikes in one place can create loose material. I want you guys to be checking what the substrate and what the surface is like. If you haven't, that can, it's like running on sand, and kids can blow out a spike and crash pretty hard. I'm not gonna say what school we were at, but we were at a school, and I noticed during warm-ups, all these kids were falling. And I'm like, what the heck? I went up to the bar, and I felt on both spots, and it was just like somebody had poured like a cup, like quarts full of loose material. The old track material was eroding and was loose as ever. I'm like, somebody's gonna really get hurt. So at that point, we stopped the event, and I said, we need a broom. And they said, we don't have a broom. And I said, well, no one's jumping until you find a broom. And they found a broom, and they swept it up, and everybody was safe, and it was awesome. So keep your eyes and ears open to potential hazards that could be there. It's not a bad idea to check that mat. What are kids falling?
Do you ever recommend, I don't know if you have to have the track company come in to put the track in, having them repair that area?
It's been done. It has been
After
done.
a while, I mean, keep sweeping it away, and then it's.
Yeah, a good quality track won't erode badly, and just a little bit is normal. But big divots and holes, that's a huge problem. Then we either have to move the pit, no problem, we got hands on deck, let's move this 2 feet forward, reset the whole thing. There would be a huge trouble, just move it.
So we move our pit all the time. Not a lot, but enough just to see.
Enough so that
If
it's
you have a
not.
big apron.
Yes. Yeah, what do we have over in long jump, triple jump? What, a big wood board usually, unless it is on the surface. That can take a beating. This track material, not so much. Anything else that can insert into my note of warning of things to watch for? Thank you for that. Back to takeoff. Back to breaking down the intricacies of this approach. 90% of it is the approach. In air flight, kids can overthink it. What I tell my students, this is the work. Right here's the money. As soon as you're in the air, guess what you get to do? Tell your kids this. Relax and fly. Now is the time to slow down a little bit and just let your body take flight. There is something that is, I'm not thinking of the right word, but it means opposite. There is something that is in high jump that is not in many sporting acts. Let's talk about other sports. Wrestling, crunched. Football, strong. Basketball, triple threat. Volleyball, you're winding up, and there's a lot of power in this trunk. There is a lot that happens in sporting to stay strong, tucked, ready, prepared, right? In high jump, all of that goes away once you're in the air, and it's magic. As soon as you are up, that is the time that unfortunately, and I'm going to say unfortunately, I tell these athletes, you have to think a little differently, because here's why. You have to completely be vulnerable with this whole trunk. Your whole midsection is, guess what? Exposed. Normally, in sport, in competition, this area is protected. We're down, we're ready, you know what I mean? So we have to, I think particularly in high jump, tell kids that you're gonna have to be a little vulnerable in air. And get them thinking that way. It's not just mechanics, there is a mindset. 90% of athletics is one, W-O-N, in the mind. 90% of it is here. You can have two athletes trained to perfection, beautiful physique, stronger than anything. You can have another athlete who's kind of strong, different body type. But the mind of this athlete, if it is able, confident, ready, strong, willing, optimistic, 9 times out of 10, and if this mind of this strong physique does not have any work done in their mind in those same categories, 9 times out of 10, this athlete's going to take this athlete. Will beat, will be superior to. Do you understand the importance of the mind? So as much as we are working on the body with these lovely people that come into our lives, boy, do not forget how important working with their mind and their heart is, right? We are not just physical beings, we know that. We are mental, we are spiritual beings, we are much grander than we realize, and it's okay to remember that when we're dealing with each person that comes into our life. So back to the vulnerability of midair flight with this high jump. When they are off the ground, you will often see athletes stay tight and sit like a V over the bar. I made this a decade ago when I had been in one of these classes, and there was a gal that had this. I'm like, what is that? This is awesome. So I didn't get hers. She didn't give it to me, but I went home and made one. There are articulation points with old school breads. You could make one even bigger than this to show this if you want to take a peek at it. I like her. Oh, Jenny, jump up. I don't know what her name is, but sometimes it's nice to have a visual to show kids what their body's doing, whether by video or whether it's something that they can hold. You can just throw some cardboard together or whatever. To be able to show a kid what's happening when they're going over the bar and they're sitting visually, what needs to happen is this trunk has to get up, the head is back, and the hips are in the air. Right at the very end, they are extending from the knee. I'm going to touch on the extend at the knee later, not right now. The main thing that I want to talk to you about is how to, and this is classic high school, classic junior high, classic lady trying to bring the high jump out of retirement again, is how do we get those hips up? That is the magic of Dick Fosbury. When he was watching all these people, you guys know that. What was the year that Dick Fosbury came out of the western roll and forward roll and went into the flop? 71, 2, 3, 4? Okay, 72. Before that time, you guys remember this? You guys already, I'm sorry if you already know. May I just spend a moment with the roll and the flop and the difference? Thank you. Before, they would approach the bar and lead leg, roll, if the bar was here, lead leg, roll over, right, and clear it. Their center of gravity had to get over the bar. Fosbury was like, wait a minute, if I do it different, and I hang my body over the bar, my center of gravity actually with mass is traveling under the bar. That one difference gained inches, inches, inches in this land of jumping high over a bar, high jump. So, the center of gravity, if these kids, when they are in air, here are some key points to tell them. You probably already know this, but belly button to the sky is a great one, because visually when they're flying, and they literally are flying through the air, you can tell them these directional points of their body, hips up, but belly button to the sky. Oftentimes, I will have them visualize the top of their head, almost when they're jumping. Pretend that there is a string that is attached to the top of your head, and you are just going to travel up, 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 up. So the little verbal cues can really affect a kid who's trying to learn something new for the first time or refine. And another thing about hips, when kids are in the air and they're flying, I will tell them to contract muscles, their glutes, hams, lower back. When those engage, what's happening is it is a little bit of a lift of their middle section. So I oftentimes will tell them, sorry it's a little crass, you guys, and I will tell the students, imagine a penny and you just pinched it between your butt cheeks and you're keeping that penny the whole entire, and they're like, Coach Skrien, you're really weird. What that does, it does give kids a little bit of a visual about contracting your whole glute panel and ham down here. This has to relax. Your front is exposed, but your back is contracted. So it's like, pinch the penny, you guys. So now the kids say that to each other, and it's okay. Mid-air. I remember telling kids too soon, or else they used it too soon, to, while in air and your body is continuing to curve and you're relaxed and you're going over, hips are up, a very critical secret is tilting the head back. So all of us, if you don't mind, take a moment, put down your things, stand up. Thank you. And what we're going to do is, while standing here, tilt your head back. Look what happened to all of your hips. Almost all of your hips went forward 3 inches. The body will do that when you tip your head back to accommodate. It'll do the same thing in air. You can give your kids 3 inches if, after they're up, after is a critical word. If you tell them to do this too soon, guess what happens? They whip their head and they kill their upward. So we must lock into every high jumper, go up first and in second. Up first. And if kids don't get it, you just keep drilling it in more. Up first, up first, up first. Hips in the air, and then tilt back. Now, okay, thank you for standing, you guys. It's so awesome. When you approach, when you have taken off, when your hips are up, your belly button is to the sky, all these muscles are engaged to allow that curve to just beautifully, gracefully go over the bar, and your head is back, bringing those hips up, nicely done. Right at the end, right at the end, you tuck your chin, because what happens is kids get really fear they're gonna snap their neck on this doggone pin. It is a fearful thing, and I myself, I'm like, don't snap your neck. But it is a fearful thing for those who have not done this, or don't have gymnastics tumbling in their background, or have never done a back layout in the water, haven't jumped off of a, into the water from something or a dock. There is natural fear to get over. So we sometimes, with some students, have to work on that ahead of time. Do any of you use back layouts on the mat by jumping, spotting, and landing on their stomach at home? Do any of you? You do. Have you found that it is a successful way to allow them to experience in-air flight?
Yeah, I mean, it takes, some of them are a lot more fearful to do it, but
Yes.
Most gymnastics, you can spot them to
Yes.
start with,
Yes.
and once they start getting it,
Then
it really builds confidence. Yeah.
yes, sir.
A back flip, just get them on their, they're not gonna have to land on their feet, but if they can get to a back flip and land on their belly, they get comfortable landing on their belly on
Have you ever had an injury from them doing it? Pile driven their neck in, spinal cord. Okay, awesome.
standing on the pit.
Standing on the
Standing
pit.
on the, get them in the middle of the pit, standing on the pit, and, this is more, the beginners, absolutely not.
Correct.
But for my varsity athletes, it's, they don't have to land on their feet.
That's right.
I've already, I had one that could already do a backflip on the ground, land on his feet. So at that point it was do a backflip and just lay out and land on your feet. Then he gets the full extension of
That's right.
and the feeling of the arc.
Awesome. Imagine if all of you began to do that form in the state of Minnesota. People would be like, dang, what's up with all these Minnesota high jumpers? These kids have amazing form, getting hips up, laying out, and experiencing that. So when they're doing that, head is back, at some point, the chin needs to be tucked. Yes, sir.
Who shows that? Do you do it and then have them try to do it? Or?
Well, hopefully, you've got one ringer in the bunch that can do it. A back layout or a back flip. I have tried, but I'm pretty flatlander now, and I go to the
Little YouTube and
True.
dolphin flip.
Dolphin
is what you
flip.
dolphin flip. Because I had a couple gymnasts that were back and forth between hurdlers, high jump, before hurdles won out. But they would come over and they would show everyone that. And, can you do something like just? And I had some that would try, but they would show, and it's.
That's right. Don't
synchronized
worry.
dolphin flip.
Don't worry that we cannot do it. We have this power of the internet. Bring an iPad, or you can spend 10 minutes if you feel compelled. But for kids to see visually what another person is doing, or if you're allowed to send a link to men and women high jump that are really show them the moon, show them the Olympics from a couple decades ago, or just this year. Show them what people are doing with their body in here. Even though they're not at that caliber, it is always a delight to see something to strive for that is being done by someone who has put these elements together. That is wonderful. So I often will use video in taping an athlete and be able to show them. And showing the kid that can't get it, the kid that can get it, and they can learn from one another. So don't be afraid to have, literally one time it's like, dang, we have 24 jumpers to get through. As a solo coach, watching 25 different forms, or 100 like you said, you had a ton
I
of them.
exaggerate.
Okay. It can be daunting to spend individual time with each of these athletes to fine tune. Understood. That is just the nature of the beast of coaching multiple levels. And we only can go so far, we can only do what we can do. But also, each one can teach one. Your fine athletes almost learn as much or more by teaching someone than they do from doing it themselves. So have your good athletes teach those who need some little fine tuning while you are working. That's what I'll do. I don't often stand people in lines of 12 on each side as they're waiting. I keep them busy, keep them doing something. Did you do your, arch? You can continue to have them do that while they're waiting, or they're watching, and I'll put them as advisors. Hey, tell me what you see they're doing. We'll talk about that in a minute, and keep them engaged. So I float through and not just standing the whole entire time, because that can help keep the athlete engaged. Let's go back to in air, flying. We've got this kid up in the air, their hips are up, they're pinching the penny, they've looked back, their body, their hips have cleared. When is the time that they clear with their lower legs, with their feet? I teach as soon as their hips are over, then it's time to tuck the chin, and with that, they extend at the knee. Be careful that these kids are gonna want to extend from the hip out. Do you know what I mean when I say that? So here we are, the bar is right center over her hips, and the head is back. They see that pit coming. When this head, chin tucks, the knee extends to clear the bar as they're traveling over. So it looks like this, and then this, and then they'll land upper back. You'll have kids that want to break in the middle and sit. That's not ideal. If you are able, tell these kids the goal of landing is the upper back. Not on the neck, not on the crown of the head. We're gonna probably wrap up here in the next 10 to 15 minutes so that you can have some passing time, and I want to ask questions in a minute. So drills, strengthening, flexibility, all of that you guys can find. These things that it is not critical, I believe, that there is only one certain thing that you do over and over. A fine, a body, that's one of the reasons why multiple sport athletes, which is going the way of the dinosaur, dang it, is problematic because we overuse the body in the same way. That's not beneficial. If you can have kids doing a whole assortment of different things, as long as they're strengthening the body, and flexibility is huge. I tell the kids, you're gonna be doing this till you're 80. Like, don't stop stretching your body. Don't stop. Because the minute we do, we begin to what? Stiffen and shrink. Don't even, and really, you guys, may I speak about this for just a quick moment? When the reason why this doggone Masters USA track and field event happened for me was because our old St. Croix Lutheran pit was gonna get replaced. And I was like, what are we doing with the old one? And they're like, well, we'll just throw it away. I'm like, wait a minute. So I put it on Craigslist, high jump pit, and it was old and whatever, but it's still foam rubber, beautiful. Somebody could use it for something, or a stunt double and fill, I don't know. So I put it out there, and I got this call from, hi, my name's Steve. I live in Illinois, and I'm coming out of retirement. I'm gonna set up a high jump pit in my backyard. I'm like, okay, Steve, come and get this for a couple $100. He brought a trailer, brought a truck, picked it up, brought it home, had some conveyor belt of substrate material over his asphalt, set this little pit in his backyard. He was happy as a clam. And he said, I'm competing. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're competing? You're like 71. And he said, yeah, the event is coming up. It was in Ames, Iowa, in like 2018 or 17 or 16, I can't remember. And I said, wow, this guy's jumping. So my husband and I surprised him, and we drove to Little Ames, Iowa, and watched this track meet. And I'm telling you, you guys, it's really inspiring. If you have an ounce, and literally an ounce of inspiration, I want you to hear me loud and clear. It is never too late to move your body or to begin a little bit of training. 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, there was a 90-year-old who ran the 100. And I'm like, this is freaking awesome. And they are out there, are they like, setting world records? No, but they're out there and they're competing. So, what happened to Cindy? I saw that and I'm like, I'm so old to hide, And I went home one day in 2020. We got this. Was the whole entire spring season canceled? That's a whole nother topic that I won't belabor right now. But I think it was maybe at the end of the season. I competed in 2021. So yes, it was 2021. In a nutshell, to encourage you, I was at home. We had having a barbecue with my family, and I'm like, you guys, I wonder what people my age are doing in high jump. Women. I looked it up, and it was like the winning mark was like 4.5. I'm like, wait a minute, I jumped 5.7 when I was young. Let me see what happened. So we went to St. Croix. We pulled off the thing from kids, and I jumped 3.8. I cleared it. And I'm like, wait, let's go up. I jumped 3.10 and I cleared it. And then I cleared 4 feet. Now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna see about. So I just trained for literally like a week or two, and I'm like, and I took second place. And I jumped 4.5 1/4. I'd never done that in 30 years. So I say that to you to inspire these athletes to continue this work of staying active and infusing with fun and being together as a team and trying something new that you may be scared of because it could have lasting effect and lasting impact on their lives going forward. Okay, is there anything that you want to ask me about how you deal with or any question that comes to mind right now? I'd like to field those questions. Yes?
What's your thoughts on, you see these kids do the bounding steps on the first 5 steps as compared to just kind of go and move into their curve? Any thoughts on that?
My thought is if they feel comfortable getting to speed, let them do as they wish. I don't tell them a certain way to begin on-ramp to acceleration. The key is get acceleration. And there's different theories. I don't have a strong way one or the other. I don't teach a bound. It's rather elegant, deer-like, but I don't teach that. But if you want to, and they love it, it's fine. I just start out with a couple and then go and then just accelerate. That's a good question.
About what step do you want to be at top speed? Is there, I don't know.
My thinking is by the time you're through with your straight, you're at top thinking. Is that off base? Is that wrong? I think we are accelerating in. Do not let them slow down. They will out of fear, but that crushes and kills all of the magic. Don't let them do that. Keep acceleration through here, but I think here. Another thing, do not ever let them step out of this line to get ready to take off. It's super common. Stop that the second. And if they do it, just scream, ah, blah, blah, blah. Come back, do it again. Don't even let them finish it. stop, we're stepping out here, because they'll do this, and I'll get to your question next. They'll do this, and then they'll do this, and then zoom, because they're ready. So don't let them do that, that's bad.
Do you have like a progression you'd like to use with somebody that's never done it before? Like just a simple kind of teaching the approach kind of progression?
You're gonna make a letter J. You're gonna curve. You're gonna take off like a carousel horse that goes up and down. And you're gonna fly and enjoy the flight. That's all you gotta say. Just keep it super simple. You begin to add the other elements when you see that they've gotten basics. Stop bad habits from ingraining. Don't let them sit over the bar. Sorry, go do 10 bridge poses. No, we're not sitting. You know, try to pull those in. What else?
How do you handle, I don't know if it's just at our school, but I feel like there's a little genetic connection in some of the girls that we have. They're related,
Yes.
and they get to where they're, you know, they run up, and they just can't jump. They run up. It's like, how do you handle that?
It's very common. Sometimes we have to break down fear by getting really easy. No bar for a while for you. No problem. It just becomes no problem. The higher it gets, the more intense. Do you have a word into this specific? Thank you. Sometimes removing fear, removing obstacle, and letting people be at peace for a minute, just fine. Just fine until they build a little confidence. You know, the worst thing we can do when someone's down is abuse them more. We don't want to do that. Yes,
Well,
sir.
one of the things, if you keep the J, obviously momentum's still going in the pit. A lot of times the ones that want to go and do the jump and keep going are down in the L.
Yes.
They're coming flat, they're coming parallel to the bar instead of still attacking it. Bar, no bar, approaches, whatever.
Yes.
My rule is never land back on the ground.
Yes.
You always land in the pit.
And
Whether it be landing on the pit on your feet, whether it be landing on the pit in your foot, whatever.
that's right.
Never land back on the pavement. Once you leave the ground, you're landing on the pit.
Which leads into something I didn't say yet that I want you to remember. Don't, if you can help it, do pop-ups with these kids. I would not. I would not have them run and pop up and land in the same spot. It trains a poor habit. Do scissor kicks, or have them not even go in the pit for the first couple days. Have them do this. Have them run through.
But don't leave the ground.
Pardon?
But don't leave the
And
ground.
do not leave the ground. Do not leave the
One,
ground.
one other thing I was just gonna say about kids getting that fear, normally it's because they've landed on the bar once.
Yes.
And there's nothing that hurts worse than landing on a high jump bar. And we always block the bar. So if I always have somebody on the other side,
Yes.
and we make sure their hand's there, so if somebody hits that bar, it's gonna fall straight down, they're not gonna land on it.
Very
'Cause if you
good.
land on it in the pit,
Oh yeah.
you're done. That
And
kid will not
it's-
wanna jump again.
Zane Junior High, little Cindy learning in the gym. Guess what kind of bar we use? Triangular aluminum. And when it lands flat on the bottom and pointed on the top. All right, I think our time is drawn to a close. I am available for my email or my phone number. You are welcome to contact me. If you have any questions, I'll be here and waiting. Please feel free to ask any questions. So thank you very much for being here.